Hi, I'm Bill Doherty. I want to welcome the viewers to another edition of Bill's Bullpen. Bill's Bullpen is a program that's intended to give folks an idea of what's going on both locally and regionally. And today I'm happy to have with me two representatives from Cape Symphony, Rich and Michael. Now,
Hey, Bill.
Identify yourself in terms of what your full titles are. Michael?
Sure thing. My name is Mike Aubaugh. I am the president and CEO of Cape Arts and Entertainment that officially does business as the Cape Symphony.
And Richard?
I'm Rich Chwastiak, CH. I'm the manager of external affairs, and I also lead our Cape Symphony Presents program.
Okay. Now, tell me a little bit about, you're in a position to tell us a little bit about the history. You've recently gone through what I'd call a changing of the guard, so to speak, with musical director.
Yeah, we've had a transition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from a historical standpoint, our organization's been around for 60 plus years. We merged with the Cape Cod Conservatory of Music and Arts in 2010 with the Cape Cod Symphony Orchestra, which is why Cape Arts and Entertainment exists. We do business as both the Cape Symphony, which is an orchestra, a union-based orchestra. We do about a cycle every month. And there's also the Cape Cod Conservatory of Preschool and Arts. The conservatory and preschool also operates in two schools, one in Falmouth and one in Barnstable. And then the Cape Symphony Presents, which is a new division, started about roughly 3 or 4 years ago, which has been stewarded mostly through Rich and his activities and entrepreneurialism. And from that point, our organization has grown from being more than just a organization that performs music, but we're a civic organization that works and collaborates with our community. We put on concerts, we teach kids, and we work and collaborate with all 15 towns and islands on the Cape.
Well, Mike, I do recall, when I was a county commissioner, that we did have I remember we had a welcoming cocktail party for the previous music director, and he talked about how important it was to not only to have what I would call a traditional, repertoire, but also one that incorporated new music. And I believe that in this transition, your new music director has that sense, because I remember the words that she used were something to the effect of she wanted to play a new piece so that people wanted to hear it over and over again, which I was very, I thought that to me that sealed the deal as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, it's funny, we refer to classical music with the perception that in the world that it's a music that has existed. But people are still writing music today. They're still composing music, and we hear it every day. You hear it from interactions on TV, you go to movies, you hear newly composed music. There are composers, me even being one of them, that continually write music in the contemporary sense. So classic is a little bit of a misnomer. We are very excited as far as the organization bringing on Alyssa Wang. She is 31. She is a gifted violinist, a tremendous musician, but she believes very powerfully in what our organization is trying to accomplish, which is more than just trying to put on great concerts, but trying to be an integral part of our community. Engaging in civic engagement and what we can do. And of course, that working together is what we believe will do as much as attracting audiences as the programming will. So keeping the music alive is not something we think of, because the music is alive. It's a part of our lives every day, and we want to engage and embrace it the best ways we can.
Well, in terms of keeping music alive, Rich, I think that's what you're doing.
I am music. Music is me.
Single-handedly, it exists within his soul.
Okay, well, you've had what I would call an outreach program, that started. Talk a little bit about that.
Like Mike, as musicians, administrators, we all have varied backgrounds. Mike was a composer and studied it all the way through a doctorate. I have a classical music background, as a percussionist, and I also love to collect vinyl records and DJ and through a lot of events when I lived in New York City for over 10 years before moving here. So pooling a lot of that varied background, I kind of funneled all of that into Cape Symphony Presents, which is it's an interesting program because unlike the orchestra, where everyone converges on our concert hall, which is the BPAC, the Barnstable Performing Arts Center, this program, CSP, what we call it for short, goes out to all the communities themselves. So we have 15 towns on the Cape, and all are very provincial, as you know. My town's the best. I'm staying in my town, right? That's the whole thing,
Yeah.
and that's great. Having that identity per town is amazing. And CSP the beauty of it is it services those towns or presents in those towns based upon what those communities want to hear and what they like. What are their interests? I love to call it our living Spotify algorithm, right? We don't use a computer, but it's our staff, myself mostly, going to those towns, listening, talking to people. What do you like? What don't you like? And then we program specifically for that, utilizing all types of venues, from, let's say, your normal church or concert hall to community space, also breweries, warehouses, coffee houses, wherever. I mean, we could even take this TV studio and turn it into an awesome music video if you really wanted to, Bill. So that's that creativity.
Well, feel free to do that. You're always looking for content.
Exactly. Yeah. So having that ability to be creative in the programming as well as the location, that's what keeps the program fresh, and I think what keeps people interested. And you yourself have come to a bunch of concerts at our Falmouth campus, just right down the road here, and we're very excited about that space to see how we can continue to grow it.
And the thing that impressed me the most in going down there was to see not just people with hair like mine, but more of a diverse, let's say, community. Both young people and middle-aged and and seniors, who have plenty of time in their hands and looking for more entertainment. But I guess the thing that impressed me more than anything else was hearing instruments that I didn't ordinarily hear. For example, the marimba. Okay, I'd never heard a marimba in concert or being played before. And I was very impressed that that there was a venue for that. Now, having said that, what is the kind of cycle that you operate on as far as you've had the conversation with people in the community, you've talked about what they're interested in. How do you move that towards, let's say, an actual activity?
Oh, totally. And I can bounce. Mike and I can kind of bounce across this question because the orchestral, what's happening with the Cape Symphony Orchestra and the programming there, Cape Symphony Presents mirrors that pretty equally. I usually take off September just because that's our second summer reason. It gives me a month to kind of reset. The orchestra kind of kicks off at that time. But the main thing is that we are all year. We're programming throughout the year, not seasonally. And that's something that's like the proverbial stone we've been pushing up the hill here, is that we're not just a seasonal community anymore. We're doing music all year round for all different types of people, and you said it yourself, we're looking to diversify our audience, we're looking to drop the age range, but at the same time remain multi-generational. That's going to be part of Cape Cod for forever. And it's an exciting thing to program for.
It's an important aspect about our organization for most of the community to know, is that we talk about how the seasonal population swells in the summertime. That doesn't really bear much effect on us organizationally because we operate in all year long. And even when we do, free outdoor summer concerts in Hyannis, I recognize most of the people that come to those concerts because they're the people that normally come to the concerts year long. So it's funny how tourism really doesn't affect our operation. We have a concert cycle going on this weekend in the freezing cold of January, competing against an AFC championship game, and we still have people coming to the concert. So,
the AFC championship game that I care about is on Sunday.
Yes,
so,
we have a concert on Sunday,
and I do have tickets for Saturday.
Saturday, of course you do, Bill. We've talked to Bob Kraft to see if we can get him to change it. He said that he'll work on it and let us know. We're still waiting.
Well, like all venues, there's a set of priorities that go with all of that, and the opportunity, let's say, of having an absolute open venue. I recall from my disappointment when I was a program chair for an electrical engineering society, where the only time I could get a crowd to come out was when I had the belly dancer, and they all showed up for that. And my God, if she weighed an ounce, she weighed 300 pounds. But engineers have no taste, so they all went crazy over that. So anyway, so of the various music, let's say, I don't know whether or not like this Saturday is more of a traditional program with what I call Austrian or German composers as being the primary. Is that correct?
Yeah, we sort of divide the orchestra audience into three categories. There's the masterpiece sets, which we refer to as the classics, and that is a lot of the repertoire that covers the range from European music to today. And then we have the pops audience, which floors more of the popular music flavor. And then we always look at the holiday concert. The holiday concert's a cycle all on its own. We do 6 shows, and sometimes we have audience that just come only to that show annually because it's just part of the Cape tradition. We do 1 a month, 5 pops, 5 masterpiece sets, which we refer to as classics. And then we try to do hodgepodge programming through July and August.
And indeed,
and that's just for the orchestra.
Okay, well, indeed, as far as the difference between it, I have seen at both venues, different people, and some just go to the pops, and some just go.
Yeah, we have
classical
audiences that like both sides.
Yeah.
Some crossovers, but they're, yeah.
Well, it's unfortunate that that folks are missing out on what I would call increasing the opportunity to have more variety in their life, because I will say that I've never been to either venue where everything wasn't just absolutely upscale and wonderful, especially when you're doing the Broadway stuff. Like I've only, let's see, I remember my first Broadway production was Fiddler on the Roof, and it didn't have it wasn't Zero Marcel, it wasn't the next guy, it was the next guy after that. But you begin to get that same sense at Symphony, that that same let's say that same energy, that same vitality, is there, and that the folks should take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Well, the quality of the experience is what's so intriguing. Like, if you're living here on the Cape or visiting on the Cape, you can have an artistic experience here that is equal to if you would travel to Providence, if you would travel to Boston, if you would travel to New York City in a lot of cases. And the fact that we can expand upon that into these other areas, even in an educational side. We don't know of another organization that has a preschool or a
we are the only
conservatory
orchestra
attached.
in the country that actually has a state licensed preschool.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
It's crazy.
Because I know that Plymouth has has an orchestra, but they just basically present, for performance.
Correct.
Okay, and it doesn't seem to be the level of community involvement, that we have. We're very fortunate to have here in the Cape.
Yeah, when we look at benchmark comparisons within organizational structures, it's Rhode Island has something similar. There's an organization out in California. There's not a lot of us that is a balanced institution where Cape Arts has, the orchestra is one half, and then education and CSP take up the other half, and they were equal as far as revenue structures and accountability for. So it is a working institution, has a lot of things happening. And I think that's the benefit of our organization, to have that type of, where we can fit into more niches within the community.
Well, that's an interesting point. And I'm sure you have a theory. What kind of theories do you have in order to do that?
What kind of theory do I have to do that?
Theories do you have in order to, let's say, to increase the size of that niche in the community?
Well, we have to make sure that we can bring down barriers of accessibility. We got to be a part of the community. That's one thing that people don't realize, that the Cape Arts and Entertainment Symphony and all the things we do, we have almost 400 employees that work institutionally.
Really?
Yeah, people don't realize it's that large because there's faculty. It's a union orchestra. We are the second largest orchestra in the state of Massachusetts. I'm told that there's some orchestra in Boston that's bigger.
Who knows?
But it is, musicians from the same collection, and then we have another 130 that are on our sub list that do rotate through performances. So it is a big operation, and I think for us the focus isn't just trying to be big. We want to be integral. We look at ourselves as a civic organization, and why the arts matter. Why is it important? We are an economic driver. We believe very strongly in the arts economy here on Cape Cod, because that is part of who we are with the Cape. So we fit right into that. And how we can work together, how we can move experiences together, whether it's in education or attending performances, it benefits everybody. Everybody wins, and that's kind of something that we at the institution talk very openly about. It's not what we say we do, it's what we do, and more importantly, why we do it, why we exist. And we exist to be part of the community just as every other integral part of our community is. It's an arts organization, yes, it's a civic organization as well.
Well, to me, that's the ideal kind of integration, that will, let's say, provide not only continuity but longevity, in the community. In terms of, let's say, tell us a little bit about what's going to go on coming up with the outreach program.
Oh, totally. And it's actually, Mike opened up a great segue, because I can actually give you an example of how this is happening, in particular with the outreach. So, connecting with community and collaboration. These are the two. Quashjack. These are the three C words of this.
Communication, yeah.
Right. They work together simultaneously. It's really how I build our relationships. And an example of that is right now what we're calling our Exit 11 series. So, do you know what town old Exit 11 is?
Yeah, Brewster.
Brewster Chatham, right? So we have a great collaboration.
I think it's pronounced Chatham.
Chatham. So Chatham has the Orpheum, the Chatham Orpheum, which is an awesome movie theater that's existed there. It's gone through a great renovation over the past 10 years. A large theater that fits about 150, and then a smaller theater. So we've come into a relationship, or a collaborative relationship, where we're doing a 5-concert residency series that started in December. We've recently just had our last concert, which was a candlelight concert with a string quartet playing pop music, not your traditional repertoire. And we're moving into our next one on February 19th, which is a singer-songwriter. His name is Taylor Ashton. He's originally from Canada. He's living in Brooklyn. He released a new album, but he wrote it on a cross-country road trip across the United States, which is interesting. So folk Americana. So each of these concerts are very different. However, it activates the space as a concert hall, not as a theater. And if you're familiar with the Orpheum, the front part is Pizza Shark, which is their lobby, but it's a separate business. So when a patron comes in that's a ticket buyer, you can come in, you can grab a drink, you can grab a piece of pizza. We usually activate it with a DJ playing all different types of vinyl records, vinyl only, right? And then they come in for the concert. But having that pipeline of all the spaces having something to offer, you keep a ticket buyer on site longer. And also the front part accepts non-ticket buyers. So if you just want to come in and check it out, see that you really are maybe into this, you can buy a ticket there for the next concert. And it also just civically activates the downtown. So usually people will go to a restaurant beforehand if you don't want to eat there, or after. It keeps people on the street. So all these different touch points, it's just the whole community rises through that. And we're 2 for 2 for sellouts, so you got to get your ticket early. And we're expecting the other 3 to also move in that direction. So hopefully this is one example of how we kind of activate a space or a town where everyone wins at the end of the day. It's really quite exciting.
Well, yeah, it sounds like we're going to have our own Jordan Hall on the Cape.
Why don't we have 15? What's stopping us? They just may not be what you think of Jordan Hall, which is a beautiful space, by the way.
Well, when I think of string quartets, I think more of a Du liegst mir in Herzen, or something something more of a classical kind of romantic nature, and you forget a lot of jazz groups are
quartets.
Correct, and you bring up a great point where when you think of, let's say, the word quartet, symphony, right? These words in a lot of people's minds draw a connotation to what they believe or what their previous lived experience was, connecting with that word, right? And that's something we are institutionally fascinated with, is how do you change that perception? How do you change what a symphony means? The outreach programs are one vehicle to do that. Also our education programs are, because we're accepting children at 2.9, and then they move through that pipeline, right? So, you come in, you move to Suzuki, you move to regular lessons, to the youth orchestra, you become an adult, you become a ticket buyer, and then hopefully you're a lifelong learner that sticks with the institution. And that's how you build your audience. It's really quite exciting.
Well, the education piece, makes a lot of sense, because that's how you, create your base, by say by involving them in an early stage, so their expectation is that it will continue. And then with part of that, I guess they would look for ways to make it continue and also, let's say, support the next steps. Now, I'm really excited about the part, the part where you're looking at the Chatham Orpheum, but there's also other venues that you have that people should know about. I believe that let's say the Devil's Purse, I think, is in
Dennis.
That's in
Correct. So when you
is
think
that
of
Dennis.
South Dennis. So just as the orchestra has the holiday concert as one vehicle, the Pops as another, and then our Masterpiece series, these are ways of segmenting the audience. Cape Symphony Presents goes the same way. Exit 11 is one of those, right? Another is our Secret Planet Cape Cod series. Secret Planet is the way that's our program for booking world music. So when you're talking about seeing things that you wouldn't normally, like for example, here in Falmouth, we had a band from West Africa, from Togo.
I heard them. Yeah.
This is just a way to kind of group
Yeah.
those offerings. So if you're into that music, you can come and check that out. We also
they had a very strong sound.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Strong beat.
Oh, they were rocking. Yeah, that room was going for it.
Moving the place. Yeah.
And you brought up Devil's Purse, and that's one of the ways where we get all of our jazz lovers or jazz patrons together. It's also our one series where it's absolutely free. No ticket necessary. You show up to Devil's Purse. We do jazz from 5 to 8 p.m. every single Friday. I'm just setting the schedule now, for June, July, and August. And there's a
They
food.
don't keep you from buying beer while you're there, right?
No, not at all. Actually, I didn't even tell Mike this, but they did ask that our marketing wouldn't put it on the radio because we overran the space. They had people putting their chairs up in the, middle of the parking lot.
Yeah, the brewery the brewery's there, but they open up portion of the outside lot,
yeah.
and there are facilities, and we've met with the chamber in Dennis to get permission to do certain extraneous programming, but it's just a place to go hang out. It's off the bike path. We've stopped there on bike rides and get there, just get a beer, and if you catch it during that time, you grab some food, listen to some jazz, and I've noticed a few times I've been there, there's children there, there's adults there, there's all ages. It's just coming together. It is very European.
Okay, when you went to the guest house, the whole family was there because nobody had a living room that was large enough, let's say for a family gathering, and to have a space like that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yes, it does.
Totally.
Yeah.
They actually have a name for it. It's called the third space.
Third space.
You have work, you have home, and then like an outside gathering area. It is a very European concept, but we do activate that in a lot of different ways, which is exciting. It's fun.
Okay. Well, we talked about Dennis. What about some of the other towns? I think you were in. I'm trying to remember. Was it Yarmouth?
So Yarmouth, we've
Yarmouth House, right?
Thatcher Hall is
Thatcher
the venue
Hall,
that we've utilized, which is a Swedes-Borgian church. It's a very interesting history to the building, and the whole thing's chestnut, right? So it, which I don't think that tree grows anymore on the Cape. Different story, different time. But the space is great. It has a good capacity and beautiful acoustics in there. So we recently had a percussion quartet playing the Goldberg variations from Bach.
My God!
But normally you hear it, let's say a normal instrument. When I mean that, whether you hear piano, violin.
To me, a Goldberg variation. I know Glenn Gould played it on the piano, but it wasn't really as good as, let's say, hearing an authentic harpsichord artist, play it.
Correct.
In terms of those.
Yes, Glenn takes a lot of liberties.
Yes, he does.
Well, this was a very different way to hear it, and it was the concert was titled Bach's Music Box. So, if you can kind of imagine, all the notes where they need to be, but sort of kind of sounding, a marimba was also there, vibraphone, glockenspiel, and also children's instruments that were tuned and particularly
wonderful.
put together.
Yeah.
So, different ways of that kind of like left side path is really the programming that we really like to kind of push through that. Also, Wellfleet, we do a lot of stuff at Wellfleet Preservation
Wellfleet,
Hall.
Yeah. I wondered about whether or not, how do you get a crowd down to Wellfleet? Because that you really have to want to go down there.
So this is, it's interesting. We do pull from all over if people are into it, but what we found with the crowd from Wellfleet, they like when we push the envelope a little bit, especially with global music. So upcoming, we have a concert with a quintet called Sawari, and it's a mixture of all different types of music backgrounds, Moroccan, all over the Mediterranean, classical Indian. There's a great tabla player involved. So that community seems to really enjoy world music in particular, and that's kind of, or also singer-songwriter. We're doing another concert there where we work a lot with upcoming local Cape Cod-based musicians, especially on record releases and first releases. So we're doing a opening or a concert release with Jordan Renzi is the name of the artist. That's going to be coming up on March 21st. So.
Well, I'm delighted to hear you working with Cape Cod artists because there's an element of economic development that says what are the opportunities to make a living here on the Cape.
Correct.
And
there's wonderful talent here on the Cape. I mean, the Cape is known for its arts community, and that's where I think our organization plays a key role in civic engagement and supporting the economy here.
Well, considering that having grown up, let's say at Whitehorse Beach, where they said once you go over the bridge, you're never heard of again, and it's true, because why would you want to go back over the bridge? I personally have taken subscriptions to Emerson and to Boston Lyric, but it is a struggle, let's say, to get up to Boston, and everything is, especially when you're describing all the opportunities that are here, that we should take advantage of. Now, there's always a wish on a program like this to come up with what you might say is a catalog of events. Okay, so perhaps you could cover what's in store after Saturday, as far as the rest of the year for Symphony, and what's in store for the folks in the outreach.
Well, if first, we have the orchestra. We do a concert every month, so we always interchange between classics and pop. So it's a classic, our Passport to Vienna series, which you're going to get to see. Waddingham Pratt is a wonderful keyboardist, and Beethoven 7. So it's going to be a great concert this weekend. Get your tickets; it's selling quickly. We then go to February. We do Pops, which is a jazz. We're bringing back Byron Stripling, who we had here a few years ago. We did a tremendously wonderful show, and so we're excited to have him. March is sort of our down month, and then we come back through April, May, and June with a classics. Our Pops, Classics, and a Pops as we close out the season. More details on our website, but our May Classics, as this cycle does, features Alyssa. She will also be featured in the May cycle as well. So
do a Motown concert coming up too. I think
that's the next one. That's the one.
I'm
in
excited
February.
about that one.
Yeah. Motown.
And what's coming up for your outfit?
So for new things like that we're moving up on now, we have a really cool collaboration going on with Wauquasit Resort. I don't know if you've ever been to Wauquasit.
Of course.
On Harwichport, right?
Yes, it is. And we've been telling Chatham that for years.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I lived in Harwich for 30 years.
Okay, so you're familiar with 28 Atlantic, their restaurant. Food is incredible. This is the first year that the restaurant is now open for the off season. They normally shut down, until regular. So we've combined with them to put on a series called A Taste of Jazz. So every Friday and Saturday we started it in November. We're going to be kicking it back off on February 13th. So it's going to run from February 13th to March 28th. Every Friday, Saturday, you'll get to see a jazz duo from 5:30 to 8 p.m. Duos and trios, all types of artists, both locally based here on the Cape and Boston, Northeast. We have a lot of Berkeley professors coming over, which they've been really enjoying the experience. A beautiful room to perform in. That's something I would get a reservation, come check out. It's really fresh, it's really new, and I'm excited to see how that collaboration kind of moves forward.
We've actually come to almost the end of this, so I would ask you, what kind of a takeaway would you want to give folks at the end of this?
Go ahead.
Myself? Oh, okay.
You personally.
Me personally? Okay. Well, number one, I'm extremely proud of the work that we do at the Symphony. I'm honored to be able to work with Mike to allow a program like this to kind of evolve. So if you haven't had a touch point with the Symphony or Cape Arts and Entertainment's programming in some capacity, I would say just come and experience it for yourself. With no perception, and I really believe you're going to be surprised about what you see and hear, and want to bring people, friends, family, whatever, in the future. And don't hesitate to either reach out to any of us, or also, if you're a social media user, follow us on social media. You can find capesymphony.org as the website, or if you're an Instagram user, Cape_Symphony, or Cape Symphony_presents.
Well, with that, I want to thank you both for coming, Mike and Rich, and I want to thank the viewers for taking the time to find out more about what's going on, both in terms of the arts and also a significant contribution to the quality of life here in Cape Cod. This has been Bill's Bullpen, a production of Born TV.